Yes, we are live. What are we
Mhm.
doing today?
Oh, I think
Should
we
we
should
go
get a
through
live.
your build first, Venkat? What are you
Yeah, we
doing?
can do that. That'll take like 5-10 minutes, and we can talk technical a little bit. But yeah, I'm also curious to see what Yash has been up to since he disappeared a few months back. Usually, when you come back from your absences, you have a couple of interesting news stories for us.
And we can also talk about Legos, right?
Yes. Yeah, we can start with Legos if you guys like. I can show you what I've been playing with. Uh, Let me actually share the Discord itself. Oh, wait, is my Discord open? Uh, yeah, so as I was telling Anuraj, as a kid, I didn't have uh, Technic. So Technic was fairly new in the 80s when I was growing up, and it was like super expensive and not available in India. So I never actually played with Technic as a kid. So it's, why am I? Oh, there we go. I was looking in the wrong place. So I'm actually playing with Technic parts for the first time at nearly 50 years. But this is not like original. This is knockoffs from Temu. So as I was telling Anuraj, I got like a couple of assortment bags, then another bag with like a couple of motors, and then a third uh, pack with like a wireless receiver and a remote control. So all told, I have like a fairly extensive Technic collection now. That's I think less than $80. But yeah, so let me show you this one first. See if I can. Yeah. So this is a build that came. There was actually quite a nice little uh, uh, manual of designs that came with the Emu thing. Let me find that anywhere. So this is one of the builds there, except I added the remote control and receiver. Let me pause that. Okay, I'm always getting confused. Okay, so this manual, you can see it's in Chinese, right? And yeah, it has like a bunch of models, and actually, I happened to open it at the right spot. So this is the vehicle you just saw. And interestingly, if you put this in Google Translate, it says something like secondary robotics test instruction manual or something. So I think this is actually a manual that robotics students in high school have to work through. And I assume if they pass, if they build all the models, they get some sort of certification. So what I built first was this. It's a basic kind of like four wheeler with a single motor driving the rear axle through like a very simple gear train. Let me go back to the Discord here. So yeah, what I just showed you is from the manual. It's just, yeah, the rear wheels are driven. So then I decided to challenge myself by seeing if I could make a steering mechanism, and with what I had. So that was the challenge. And there was no, I couldn't figure out a way to actually make a meaningful steering mechanism since it doesn't have stepper motors. These are all continuous turning regular motors. So this is my first attempt, which is basically a worm gear with a fairly large reduction on the spur gear. And obviously, this uh, turns like continuously 360 degrees, but the remote control actually allows you to like reverse polarity on the motors. So I basically have a remote control controlling two motors. One is the drive wheels and the other is the turning wheels. So let me show you a couple more photos so you can see the mechanism. Yeah, this is as you can see, the lower view of the steering mechanism. And I would get an F in mechanical engineering class if I ever presented something like this. But yeah, this is the rear drive wheel. This you can see is fairly simple. This end of the mechanism is same as the design. I didn't change that part. But okay, let's look at how well my thing performs. Let me maximize this and play it. And you have to promise not to laugh.
Does it come with those cables?
The cables are part of the motors and the battery pack and so forth. So I'm glad I got some sort of meaningful steering on. But the interesting thing is, since you don't steer to a position, if you turn the sort of a dial on the remote control, it sets like basically a voltage on the motor. So it'll keep turning continuously until you zero it again. And as you can see, if you turn it too much, it'll lock. And that was that jarring sound it made. But yeah, you can see it's like this is like really horribly hard to control this, because really you should be controlling I guess the you need to be controlling position, and what you're doing is really controlling rotational velocity here. Yeah, this is my first truly embarrassing Technic build, but this is kind of fun. It's really interesting to have to think how to like achieve a function with a fairly limited set of like building blocks. It's like you don't have everything you want. You might not be able to like implement the solution you have. So there's a couple more ways I'm thinking of like experimenting to do the steering function. One is it does have a simple cam, so I can do like a cam-driven 4-bar mechanism that oscillates on the rocker rather than rotating fully. So that's one way I can still get like a full range of motion. Another is there's a rack and pinion parts I can use. So I can use the pinion to drive the rack left and right and use that to turn it. But fundamentally, the problem is I'm using a continuous motor to control position. Really, this needs a stepper motor, or it needs something on the controller end where it regulates to a position and sort of like ramps up the voltage and ramps it down properly. So the fun part is controlling this is actually a little bit like controlling attitude on a spacecraft with like reaction wheel or thrusters, right? Because what you're really doing is managing momentum rather than sorry, not momentum, velocity and momentum rather than like actual turn position. So that was fun. But yeah, I don't think the Lego building universe has like a stepper motor you can regulate to a position directly. And the as far as I can tell, the remote controller can't do anything more than as said. So it can either set a positive or negative voltage to the basic DC motors. So all you can do is command a DC motor to move forward or backward at a particular speed. Yeah, you can't like directly control plus minus ramp. So that was that. Oh, also last couple of weeks was something called the Protocol Symposium at the Summer Protocols. It was where all our researchers presented their research, and I did an unconference session on Legos. So I have a bunch of slides, but I don't feel like doing them now. But in one of the future sessions, I'll walk you guys through my philosophizing about the Lego universe. It's kind of fun. Anyway, so that was my show and tell.
What are the robots you can make? Can you show that manual? What different kinds?
Let's see if I can.
Because I'm searching Temu right now. So
I'll send you the one. This can make a huge number of models, but there's no single page with all of them. Let me see how many there are, though. There must be like 50 models in here. I've been posting some of them on Warpcast, so you can see. I'm basically working my way through this entire kit to learn all the basic sort of like techniques. So I think I've done something like 12 models so far, and I'm like just about at the halfway point of the book, maybe, or third. Yeah, no, actually, just about a third. So I guess there's like 50 models here. And yeah, they worked their way up from like the first one was like a simple child's playground swing type thing, and the second one was a seesaw. So very simple ones. Then it works up to somewhat more complex gear trains. Then you have a helicopter. I posted the helicopter on Warpcast. Then there's this car. There's another car that I think can do better obstacles. And yeah, it keeps going.
does it fly?
Oh no,
Helicopter.
no. It just has a rotor and a tail rotor, so it moves, but yeah, Lego can't fly. It doesn't have the power to weight ratio. Oh, but speaking of that, I can show you something. I think I showed you guys this a couple of weeks back. So this is actually a very cheap quad, $50. But this is actually Technic parts. So the beams and stuff you see, they're compatible with Lego Technic. So I wouldn't call this like Lego Universe, but it's Lego Universe plus plus, because the battery pack and controller are not like Lego Universe at all, and the motors and propellers are like, yeah, real ones. So this thing can fly. I haven't yet to control it, but this is like, I would say, Lego real hybrid that can fly. The frame is Technic.
It seems they are scratch programmable.
What are?
You can use these techniques. You can use the scratch programming language too. At least it says on Temu's website.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if
It
that's supported. I think Lego had that Mindstorms brick or something like a decade ago, but I don't think they have a computer right now. In the current offerings, they just have like motors and uh, radio receiver and controller, but I didn't find like an up to date controller box. So this might be like some, yeah.
Is the NXT retired?
That one's also. I'm not sure about that one. I haven't seen it, but I thought
Because
that's
the
also
it was yeah, the Mindstorms was the big yellow brick, the RCX.
yeah, that was like 20, 30 years ago almost. It was very old.
Yeah.
Because the more recent one, yeah, that's the what do you call it? NCX or something. Yeah, I remember that being about 10, 15 years old at least. But I didn't
Yeah,
see
yeah.
anything at the website recently.
Yeah, the RCX. Yeah, no, that was my era. I think I have an RCX 1.0.
Hmm.
Like the OG, like Windows 95 supported. And then I think it ran some weird app, like I think it was like a microchip processor. It was some weird processor at the time. But there was a open source project I remember called Not Quite C, and it like it you remember. There's a project, and you could write like it was like a pseudo C, and it like transpiled it, but you could actually run like pseudo C code on the RCX, and then that's what we were running back then.
So I think if I did want to do microcontroller and up, I wouldn't use Lego Universe stuff anyway. Like I saw a couple of mods that people have built to adapt like Lego bricks to supply from Arduinos. So I think that makes more sense. So, like just exit the Lego Universe if you want to do compute. But speaking of that, I was impressed by some of their techniques here. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but this is the battery pack. And I don't know how clear it is, but this connector is actually quite clever. Let's see if it's. See that it's got two of the regular Lego studs, and then you see four leads. So this is basically. I thought it was like an edge bridge type situation, but it's not. This is stackable, by the way. You can stack these. So if you stack multiple motors on this, it basically creates, I think, parallel circuits. So you can drive a lot. This is a fairly heavy battery pack. It's 1.5, so 9 volts. And what else? Yeah, this cable, this flat ribbon cable, it has 5 wires. And I think they were not what I expected. There's a power and ground, but I had to look up the specs. It wasn't what I expected. But yeah, my plan is, if I can figure out the right way to do it, like just cut this one open. There's also like extension cables that look like this. So basically cut one open and wire the other end to like Arduino leads basically. So control the motor from Arduino instead of its own controller. But yeah, this part, I don't know if you can see. Sorry, my room is so dark, but this is the wireless receiver. So the wireless receiver takes power from the, so this wireless receiver, it takes power from the battery, and it doesn't matter which polarity the battery is on, but it can basically drive 2 signals. And both are stackable. If you stack them, of course, you'll be controlling them at one signal.
It's infrared.
What?
Infrared.
I guess so. It does glow red. I'm not sure, actually. I haven't looked up the specs. And this is a controller. I don't know what these 2 wheels are what I've been using to control the 2 motors, but there's some other switches and stuff I haven't yet figured out what the hell they do. But I do think it's radio because there's two frequencies. There's a frequency selector switch in the middle. So I think it operates on two of the standard RC control frequencies.
But it seems there is a universe of programmable Legos. I posted some links. I think people are doing that a lot.
Yeah, these parts look similar to what I have, but yeah. Oh, the brick is, I think, the old one, and I'm guessing Temu still has like Chinese vendors making them.
Mm.
Yeah, but I don't think I would want to stay in the Lego universe if I wanted to program. It feels like kind of pointless skill development. I don't know. Let me actually see if I can find the thing I found of Lego Arduino kit. Oh, Amazon actually has Lego Arduino kits. I'm going to see if I can buy one. Yeah, I'll have to do some research here.
Whoa. Sorry, I'm just having like an immensely nostalgic experience right now. This has triggered a whole chain of holy cow.
But you're searching for
Crazy.
something?
I got some links. I'm gonna dump some links.
Yeah, just share your screen and show what you're looking at as well.
Oh dear, I'm on the phone. Well, here somebody can pull this up. So, because Venkat, this is a Ann Arbor thing. So, because I remember, I mean, because like we all heard of the U.S. first, right? And so there's like Dean Kamen saying that like the world is rotting and engineers are the only way to stop the rot. Blah blah blah. So there was also the first Lego League, which I actually never participated in, but like Michigan, I guess I don't recall exactly the reason why. Like if you look at the first robotics team distribution in the States, it's like Michigan is the epicenter. And I think it's like the strong sort of like automotive industry manufacturing epicenter, like also Illinois, like, but Michigan just happened to be like the epicenter of the Dean Kamen first thing. But so anyway, there were like a lot of Lego people, and I'm just looking up all the Ann Arbor Lego things, and it looks like Brick Bash is still going, which has been going for 20 years, and I guess it's like a high school local thing. But then there's all these LUGs, Lego user groups. Are there local? Has anybody been part of a LUG? Or you looked at LUGs?
I mean, this is the first time I'm playing with Legos in 30 plus years, I would say. Like, yeah, 35 years. I would have played in India in the mid 80s, and I haven't touched Legos until last year since then. So I basically didn't realize how much it had evolved. Like, it's amazing what people do with Legos now. But it's still, I don't know, something about it makes me feel like it's like people are trying to, like, I don't know, write Shakespeare in Esperanto or something. I get that feeling that this is like it's a very powerfully expressive language, but it's still like a I don't know, limited, finite vocabulary language, and there are clear limits to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I honestly still don't understand or have a take on the kind of downfall of Mindstorms and Technic.
Technic is
Because
still
like
doing well. Mindstorms fell, but Technic, I think, is going from strength to strength. It's like lots of good popular sets are there. They seem to release new ones every season.
I mean, but like I mean, they are of the same. Like they're a generation of the same effort. Like NXT is the next generation of the Mindstorms.
Yeah.
I don't know what like events or kind of product like customer feedback and like informed that transition in the new system beyond just like the RCX is an old chip and it like doesn't look good and all that. Like the NXT system isn't compatible at all. Like it's fundamentally new design, new architecture, new sensors, new processor, all that, which probably today is well overdue for an update, I would think.
So my suspicion is that because I just learned about this 2006 to 2007, Lego had like a big corporate crisis and they hired a new CEO who turned them around. But that was also when the Arduino and Maker movement was kicking off. So I suspect after that turnaround, they would not have had the ability to compete with the basically open hardware scene, right? Like, I can't imagine anybody after approximately 2009, 2010 looking at Legos and stuff and saying, I'm going to actually use their compute stack instead of like the Arduino. Like, Lego is still like leading edge when it comes to like simple ways to make the mechanics. But why would anybody use Lego for compute? I don't get it. Like it's
because I mean, just for the reason that you're using it right now, it offers a fully integrated, like end-to-end mechatronics system, like literally plug and play down to the wiring, and that like
up to
even
the
now,
electrical level, yeah, but not the compute, right? This doesn't get more sophisticated than just turn motor on and off. It literally doesn't even have things like limit stops, a sensor that can be put in a feedback loop. I didn't find any such parts. It's literally feed forward RC control
yeah,
is the limit of this universe.
yeah, that's fair. I mean, that's fair. And like the NXT, like I think the like one of the big deals then was having a camera, which like is oddly relevant today. Um, are there any like open source RCX brick replacement projects that are like
We should explore this, but I haven't really looked into the compute side of Lego at all. Like from the get go, I was like, I'm only using this for mechanics and very low level electrical.
yeah,
Raj
because
or
yeah,
something, he dropped off. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Uh,
but yeah, so yeah, it's a very interesting question, I think, of in terms of that. I mean, it's a toy, right? Toy market's very like fickle in its own way, especially for like what I would expect is a very niche or small segment of their business, which is like the STEM stuff, right? As opposed to the rest of the, because like Lego, yeah, I mean, it has such wide reaching. I mean, I mean,
there, yeah, I think they had a creator series that's fairly new, but it was discontinued, and the creator series might have had compute.
is
All
the whole like entertainment arc of Lego with the new leadership, was that like under the movie and all that? Is that all part of the new leadership
well, I don't know if that new
movies?
leadership is still there. The turnaround was 2006, so I actually haven't looked at who's leading the company now or what. Uh, yeah, actually, we should research this at some point. It might be fun. But just looking at their product lineup and just looking at the forums and stuff, I think several forces have really affected them. One is the Chinese knockoffs are actually pretty good. I have some original Lego stuff that I bought, both classic and the Technic stuff. But the Temu stuff is like a third to a tenth of the cost, depending on what you buy, and it interoperates fine. The tolerances are good enough. I mean, there's like some jankiness around the edges, but it basically works. So there's low cost competition is I think one force driving them. Uh, yeah, I think the Arduino maker scene is of course another. But another thing I think is the Lego Classic seems to have gone increasingly towards kind of like aesthetics and decorations, like lots more figures, trees, roofs, things like that, and much less emphasis on like engineering concepts and like construction technique skill. And Technic seems to have basically stagnated, where they still have fairly complex builds, but I think they're like living off the back catalog mostly. But if you look in the Chinese sites, you get some amazingly sophisticated builds that are better than anything I'm seeing on the Lego site. Like their advanced kits based on like the knockoff techniques look better than anything I'm seeing in the Lego universe itself. So more variety, more complexity. So, and if you look at the forums now, there's a whole I don't know, a universe of like Reddit forums that is sprung up just to figure out where to source the best knockoff Chinese parts. So apparently, I forgot. Let me see if I remember that one. So this might be even after your time, because Reddit itself is fairly new. I found a couple of links that were kind of interesting.
Is Reddit younger than Stack Overflow?
I don't know. I think they're about the same, maybe.
I had a friend who recently commented, new Reddit user, and he was impressed by the actual technical like depth and sort of aptitude of the stuff on the site. And I'm like, well, yeah, because everybody there's older. Like all the all the younger people are elsewhere. It's just the experienced people talking amongst themselves.
So this is one of the Reddits I found. This is like people who. So it's the community is called Lepin, and Lepin was a knockoff company that is shut down, but it apparently became the rallying point for like the knockoff Lego community. So it's like there's this whole community devoted to finding the best Lego compatible knockoff things, and they like yeah, there are cloned sets. You can go to the site called brick4.com to actually figure out who has cloned a particular Lego sets. There's many original sets as well. Um, this was quite amazing. This is like, I don't know, exploring this will actually, I think, teach you all about sourcing mechanical engineering from China. It's like these people are as much experts on China as they are on Lego.
Yeah, I guess what these knockoffs have in advanced capabilities and affordability, like Lego has in brand, right? Like it's really because there still is there's no. Does Lego have a competitor really?
Nope, I don't think so. So all the like, you mean a competing system, right? A building system that competes?
A competing brand, yeah, like at the of their scale.
I don't think so. Like, oh, and yeah, the talk I did at the Summer Protocols, one of the things I think I finally figured out was the evolutionary tree here. Like, I was kept wondering, like, in many ways, Meccano or Erector is a much more sophisticated mechanical engineering teaching system. So why did it get displaced and get obsolete? So Meccano was 1904 or something like that, like a century or more ago, and it has like flexible metal strips and regular fasteners. And my current conclusion is it takes about 10 times longer to build a Meccano model as opposed to a Technic model of the same complexity. Like I built a helicopter and an airplane that are roughly similar complexity. Takes about 10 times as long, not just because there's a very like realistic fastening system with nuts and bolts and stuff, but because the way Meccano is built, they actually rely on you bending the strips and like having like stress strain shit going on. Like you literally have to like bend the parts into place, and it's like much harder to do than Lego. So my assumption is Meccano kind of had the market till around the 50s and 60s. Then when Lego got good enough, it first took the younger audience, but the older audience still didn't have like a good building system. But by the 80s, yeah, when Technic came along, it kind of like could do almost everything Meccano could do at like 1/10 the simplicity and time investment. There's still like advantages to Meccano. Like, so this is a Meccano build I'm doing right now. So you can see it's all. Have you ever played with Meccano, you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. So these, it's fairly limited. I think it's they had a couple of bankruptcy, and then Erector and Meccano merged. Erector was originally a licensee of the British Meccano. But yeah, this is a forklift that I've been building over like several afternoons, still not done. It was like painfully complex. It's still going on. But yeah, it allows you a little bit more flexibility, I would say, in terms of expressivity. It's got a larger instruction set, and it can do like more complex, more robust builds because you have like proper fasteners that don't come apart. You can build much more robust things, but it's like too complex. I think right now Meccano is in an uncanny valley where it's like too much more complex than Technic. And if you're going there, you might as well 3D print custom parts and like make your own designs anyway. So there's no real use case for the Meccano level of complexity. And Technic is a monopoly at that level of complexity. I think there is competition at the Lego Classic level, like the static civil engineering type building. But I mean, there's no need to come up with an alternate system since it's off patent and many others can make similar compatible bricks.
So the other one that I had was Merkur, Merkur. They had a lot of. I had a set, and it had like bevel gears, and I think there was like a chain in there. There was like a lot going on that the other sets didn't have at the time. They were very interesting. Yeah, there was like a tread. It had like a tread for like a treaded like farm equipment kind of a thing.
Technic has that. Yeah, I have this one right here. This is an excavator or tread thing. It has a very cute little snapping system that allows you to make tracks of any length.
Mhm.
So this might be new. I don't.
Yeah, I was gonna say what year though, because this is like
This
it's
one
like
is
a
new.
100-year-old company.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think Meccano also had tracks. It didn't have double gears and stuff, but it had a fairly complete gearing and pulley system. Lego's gearing is fairly good.
Yeah, Lego's really solid, but yeah, because we're talking about other modular building sets. So I mean, there's Lego and Connects and the Erector sets, but it's funny. Yeah, Lego had the most silicon out of everybody by far. Like always. I mean, even today, they had chips in their stuff. Like they had compute in the mix.
Yeah.
Earlier and of greater sophistication.
Their battery power pack definitely has like onboard power regulation based on how it works, even though it doesn't have like programmable compute. Clearly, they have fairly sophisticated power management in the battery pack itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so I was going on about. So yeah, I sent some links. I was just gonna say there is this. I remember so specifically. There was this guy, and I was like 12 years old, and he just built the craziest stuff. Like, it was beyond my. It was like I couldn't. I was so impressed I couldn't even handle it. I was like, "What? This is you can do this with Legos?" And I was trying to think of this guy. So this YaRG article, it's the guy Steve Hassenplug. Yeah, because I met this guy, and it looks like he still has a website, very old timey website. If somebody wants to bring it up, it's the Team Hassenplug website. So I don't know if
Is this the one?
Yeah. Yep.
What do you want me to click on? Is there something worth looking at?
I don't even know. Oh, the Legway. That's probably a good one. This was like next level stuff at the time because it was
Okay.
Yeah, but this was in like you have to remember this was like 2004 or something. Like I don't even,
This
when-
was- yeah.
Oops, sorry. This looks like a self-balancing type deal.
yes,
Nice.
written in Brick OS using Leg OS. Wait, we can look at what even is Brick OS? This is some kind of C transpiler from 2004.
I'm looking at all the other links you sent. I opened them all up.
Yeah. Oh, he's got the source code. So he's got the Legway source code right there. But I think like those sensors were, I don't know if they were custom or like this was this was like the bleeding edge Lego Technic stuff at the time. Wow, this website is really dead. Most of these links are to garbage.
But the Team Hassenplug.
That's the Team Hassenplug thing.
Let's see. What else? Monster chess. So there's like a Lego chessboard. Is this a Lego chessboard somehow? They move by themselves?
Oh, yeah, I think so. Well, wait, there's a video.
Or these might just be generic builds. Full screen is unavailable. Sorry. Let me see if I can get that.
It
Oh yeah,
seems.
this is technique. Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy crap, that is impressive.
Yeah, so is that a Steve Hassenplug thing or something else?
This is from the Hasselblad website, the monster testing.
Full contact. Yeah, so this is a Connect 4 playing robot from like 2003 running on the RCX with 32K RAM. Which is, I guess, a lot of RAM for doing Connect 4, I would think.
I'm still kind of like stuck on why they would want to get into compute at all. Like if I were running Lego, it seems like a brain dead obvious thing to me to like offer like connectors to the Arduino universe. It's like you suddenly access a whole new market of people who generally don't like mechanical engineering and want the easiest way to like do mechanical, and it suddenly opens up. So that one thing that puzzles me. But the other thing is, I think Techno's big weakness or Technic's big weakness is I think it would be hard to engineer feedback loops properly here. If you wanted to create like a reasonable universe of like feedback sensors, like uh, infrared interrupters or like just even a limit switch kind of stuff, uh, that would take a whole design effort and building. Yeah, should be
I
doable, but it would be a huge investment because now you're getting into like proper robotics. Once you start putting in automated feedback controllers. But I think to your point, like last year, if you can use a camera for everything, maybe you can get around that. All you need is like feed forward motor control plus a camera. Do everything in like the vision feedback loop. Don't bother with any of the traditional feedback loops.
That's becoming more and more real by the month. The No, this is actually a really interesting question. It's like, why wouldn't Lego do anything with Arduino? And I actually think this is a good to understand where they are because I would actually view that as volatile. That's a big brand risk. And Lego, I mean, as we've seen, Lego is an entertainment company. That's kind of like where they position themselves, and it seems they've done very well with that. But like Arduino is not, and Arduino, they themselves, I think, have had to contend with their brand not necessarily being what they want, and that's why like Arduino Pro exists, and Arduino Pro is like a completely different animal. Arduino Pro, that brand now goes to like trade shows, and they're trying to actually be seen as a real vendor for real things with real people. And I think it's really I think like the fact that Arduino Pro is like a brand that's itself trying to be separated from Arduino. That's like why like I don't think Lego would want to be, I don't know if I'd want to be affiliated with Arduino because it's really not the same thing. And it's kind of like a Wozniak sort of vibe. Where I don't know, I don't think Lego is kind of a Woz vibe. Um it's too consistent,
Yeah,
down to the micron, you know.
it's but clearly there's like latent demand. Like you search for Lego Arduino, you get like a million pages. People are hacking all sorts of like Lego Arduino mashups. This thing seems to be a kit of like interoperability parts. So I don't know what it is. I see a switch, I see an LED thing, and it's not hard. You can put at least the classic studs on anything. Like I was actually thinking I would take some of my really cheap Temu Lego Classic bricks and glue them to random sensors and things and make like that's not hard, right? You can literally just
Yeah.
do I don't know.
Yeah, but like Lego,
Yeah,
that's the thing is like Lego operates at a scale that I think Arduino wouldn't even be able to like
yeah,
fathom. Like their injection molds. I think if you read about their injection molds, they spend like $1 million on an injection mold.
yeah. That part, but I mean, that's not the bottleneck. I mean, that is their core competency, but it's already been matched to good enough market levels by the Chinese knockoffs. So that's not even really their business advantage anymore. Like, you want Lego bricks, you can buy cheap ones that work in China, right?
Sure.
Maybe not at like really complex builds for specialized parts. And they already know how to operate at small scale with fan communities, like the fan Lego communities. They have a whole program. I made a cat. Let me show you this.
Yeah, that is true. Especially the whole like kit suggestion system is very. I mean, that is a very like direct.
So this is a cat some 19-year-old kid designed, and then it became an official Lego kit. So my wife wanted it, so we got this and we made it. But
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah,
tells you
yeah.
that they know how to deal with fairly sophisticated fandoms that can do stuff, and there's no brand risk there because these people do stuff in their own little subcultures. So I think something else is going on. I think there's like genuine competency not being there, because once you get into Arduino, you're in fairly messy, I don't know, somewhat realistic maker projects. You don't have the controlled aesthetic experience of non-frustrated.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
chaos.
Yeah.
I mean, it's totally uncontrolled. There's no brand consistency. Yeah. Yeah, I love the user. I think I voted up a DaVinci Surgical Operating Room Lego kit, but I don't think there were enough like doctors upvoting it to get it through all the way.
I think the toy, it's not so much the brand risk, it's the, I would say it's the lack of brand elasticity in the concept of a toy. So the brand is not, it's not the Lego brand that's too rigid, it's the brand of the idea of a toy, right? Like, toys have to provide an easy learning curve, non-frustrating, like 3 hours of experience. They should be like movies. You should be able to get through the build, finish them, not get stuck in like an impossibly difficult step. Like, I'm finding Meccano is actually bad at that. Like, there are steps where you really have to squeeze. You make a slight mistake, it can be endlessly frustrating. But I think once you get into real projects, you can't control the frustration. So it's not like a gaming or movie going experience, and that's takes you out of toys to something else. It's not real engineering yet, but it's not toys either. It's something in between, right? Like, Arduino, I wouldn't call it real engineering, but it's not toys.
Arduino is high impedance. The Mindstorms is low impedance, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
I mean, that was also I think that was part of the innovation of the kit at the time was they didn't they had like a drag and drop like block programming language, but like before like any, I mean, this is before any of the stuff, right? Like, Arduino wasn't a thing until probably like
2009.
Yeah, it's like 8 years like after the Mindstorms kit came out.
Yeah. I think I see a more basic problem. Like, when you look at programming languages like Scratch and all the other programming languages meant for children that can be like, block programmed with like colorful GUIs and wizards and stuff, that fits the Lego ethos. But anytime you get into like even a slightly less trivial actual programming problem, programming itself is too dirty. So maybe the fundamental problem here is there is no such thing as a toy experience of programming. There are toy experiences of mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, even chemistry. But the minute you get to programming, fundamentally, there's no such thing as a toy experience. Like, I've seen some of those things aimed at kids, like Code.org had that, or Code for America or whatever. They had that something based on Scratch. Like, it was meant to teach little girls how to program based on like the Disney, what's that movie, Frozen. So it was like, the princesses skating around, and the task was something like make the princess skate in a circle. So you have to do like some simple trigonometry and stuff. And I was like, this is annoying. The little colored, so I was helping my wife like play with that. But my reaction was, this is fucking annoying. You have to drag and drop like a for loop, and you have to like do some annoyingly tedious steps to like make fairly simple things, and in the end it feels like you haven't actually learned the programming concept. You've like done like a Lego like simulation of programming that's not really programming. And I was like, this is why nobody really tries to teach programming with these languages. It's like I don't know, it's like bicycle training wheels. They actually slow people down when they try to learn to ride a bike.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of interesting to think now what that could look like, though, given that, like, because this is really about like the low code or no code like paradigm,
Exactly.
and into a even marginally complex task. Um, Now it's like so we actually I was at this hackathon, and it was actually one of the more interesting takes that I've seen in this, where it was a flow. I guess I'd call this flow based interface, which means like you've seen Node-RED, where you have like blocks that are connected by links, and this is very common in
Mhm.
like Blender and a lot of like AV software, DJ stuff, rendering, a lot of like where you have sort of like a recipe or a process that's like defined by some sort of like semantic connection
Yep.
between blocks. Um, but his system was to do that, but with like LLMs in the blocks. So it's like each block kind of like had a defined input and output. But the cool thing was you could actually watch visually the information flow with these like kind of like natural language blocks. So you were still sort of like doing a recipe and programming, but the whole thing was just really fuzzy. And like the connections between the blocks allowed you to be a little bit more explicit on like having the concept of like what a acceptable output is, like binary yes or no answer, like that would then feed another sort of thing, which could be like an image, and then do like a VLM thing on that. But I do feel like it would be interesting to see what like a scratch modality programming for Lego would look like with these sort of fuzzy blocks today. Because I do think the like pseudo low code stuff is now probably, you could use that paradigm in a way that was way more powerful. Um,
Yeah. Like I think where I've used it in real life is things like IFTTT, kind of like configurable pipes like things for web data flow type stuff. And I think the crypto people are doing a lot of that kind of composability for real, but not with like I think the essence of that is not the visual aspect, even though that's how it's presented to like kids and stuff. The essence of it is modular logic that you can sort of like plug in without thinking in programming terms, more like construction. So yeah, I think maybe you can do better and with like squishy LLM-ish looking things. Maybe it
because the
works.
issue is always if your block doesn't have the right inputs and outputs, right? That's always the fundamental issue, is like interfaces. But I
Yeah.
think if the interfaces are kind of like part of the game, where like the block tells you like, actually, nah, I need like more stuff, and it just kind of can self-populate its interface. I think that that kind of like the hand holding, to assist with like, yeah, you're architecting the links, but like it's also helping you be architect of the links. It allows to have like rigidness, like kind of stringing together the fuzziness. But that's like how it looked in this demo, and but I'm just thinking like
Is this
how that would
available
actually
online? Like the demo you saw, this company, is their product available to look at that we can look?
um oh man,
Yeah, maybe we should
that's
do
actually a
it.
good question. I don't, I'm not sure. I have to ping. I have to ping a guy.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, not
yeah,
for
yeah.
we should do a session in the future about like can low code, no code really work for this kind of stuff?
So in terms of other relevant things, that recent Yasha update. So place that I was at recently that was pretty neat, for like work stuff sort of, but didn't have any robots in it that should have robots in it, was the Edge Impulse conference. So there's this company called Edge Impulse, and their whole thing is they make tooling to easily label, train, and deploy local, very, very, very small local networks, like super, super small ones for little microcontrollers and things. So if you're trying to do image segmentation or classification of like what you're doing, if you have a wearable accelerometer, or like anomaly detection, or like look at the picture of a crack and see if the crack is too wide. They are really, really great stuff for that. Really, really cool system. But there actually wasn't any talk about robotics, which I thought was really interesting. Because like a lot of the times what we're doing here is it is, it's kind of like a canonical IoT application, which I honestly, I don't even know what that is, to be honest with you. The more I get into this stuff, I'm just like, what even is this IoT? Why do we even call it IoT? It's stuck, unfortunately. But they were really focused on sensing, right? The thing that's interesting about edge inference or like edge compute is there's only a handful of reasons it actually ever makes sense. Just in my, like, this is very reductive, high level. If somebody ever watches this, probably get in trouble. But I mean, there's two main reasons that you need to do edge inference. The first is like if you're trying to do some kind of compression in some way, which is like there's a lot of cameras are really cheap, but you can't stream video because that'd be a waste. So like you're trying to figure out if something of interest is going on to then do an action, whether it's send telemetry or actually send a picture for further inspection. You're like compressing the amount of data that needs to be sent out is one. The second one is like if there's a timeliness aspect where it's like sending the data would take a lot of time, or like trying to figure out if this means that would take time. And so if it's something that like you need to know right now, the edge compute allows you to get a very quick answer for a very high level question. And those are kind of like the two categories of things where you're doing this. But the punchline is it's getting really, really cheap and easy to do stuff with like even toy level like compute and cameras and things. Like, for like $10 now you can get a chip that has like a whole 32-bit processor plus a 32-bit excuse me, that's not a accelerator, not 32 bits, but 32-bit processor, and then like a neural accelerator that gets you like way higher performance if you're running the same model on the actual main processor. So it's like all of this little fuzzy edge inference is now getting really, really cheap and easy. And the sensors people like it, but I'm wondering what does this mean, if anything, to the robotics people for little teeny tiny small systems, which usually wouldn't, it depends on what you call a robot, right? Like it's just like a single actuator, because like most of the applications that we're talking about with a platform like this, you're not immediately actuating something, but maybe you do. Maybe you just want the camera to actually do the actuator, whether it's like the cat feeder, like maybe it doesn't even need to talk to a server to do the action. Maybe it is trusted that the local model is enough to actually make that executive decision to like feed the cat, given what it sees on the camera. So it's like if you consider the cat feeder to be a robot, I think there's a lot of interesting applications now that come out of this just getting that cheaper. Like it's just commodity now. Like these little tiny models running on an Arduino is becoming a commodity level exercise. So that was kind of interesting, little interesting diversion I had recently.
So you said $10. Like, reason I threw up this page is I just saw Raspberry Pi now has an AI camera that's only compatible with the 5.
Sorry. Yeah.
But
Yeah, but check out. So this is a company called OpenMV, and and they're really really sharp guys. They have some
120.
So they actually they work on the Arduino Vision guy, the Arduino Pro Vision guy, but they're using some of the latest chips that are like at scale, very 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 affordable, to do all kinds of little things that you would think. So one of my favorite like what I consider to be a canonical edge compute application now is a cloud classifier on CubeSats. There's some companies I've met that are trying to do GPUs in space, and that's like one of the canonical examples is like if you're taking like weather images, you're like obligated to store that data for various reasons, I guess. So it's like it's in your interest to just not send useless data because otherwise you have to store like petabytes of cloud pictures. Um, Whereas if the satellite just it has enough of a brain to be like, nah, it's not worth it, then it just doesn't send the image. And so
A
like
lot of
that's
the home security cameras seem to have this logic where there's motion detector triggered logic about like whether or not to like save like plus and minus 10 seconds of footage. So
mm-hmm.
like we have Amazon's thing, I forget what it's called, the Ring camera. Yeah, so the Ring camera basically detects quote unquote events, which is basically any motion going past our door. It seems to record like plus and minus 5 seconds or something like that.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is like that whole situation was formerly like well, I don't know formerly, but that was like an Amazon level exercise where you're like a big company and you had like an engineering team and blah 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 and firmware and all that. But now this is becoming like you can spend $50 on a dev kit and have like a very powerful set of tools to actually train a network specifically for your application in the time span of like a day or two, as opposed to it being like a whole exercise with multiple people involved.
So this is I just clicked on one of their random camera modules. This says OpenMV Cam H7 Plus. Let's see what. So MicroPython programmability. Yeah, I don't really
So I
know.
don't know if this has got so that one of them has a lift chip, ALIF semiconductor. I don't know which one it is, but one I know it's
Wait, what's it called? ALIF? Let's see. I think it might be the one I was looking at before.
Joshua, are you currently working with these technologies on your ongoing projects?
I shouldn't say.
Oh no, okay.
I think that's public. Anyway, yeah. So the open because it's all the hardware. The hardware is open. Yeah. On their Git repo, they've got the Lyft drivers. Anyway, it's the company is a company. ALIF. Yeah, they just have some chips that are based on ST, the STM.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what the one we were looking at was. So
Yeah.
ALIF
But
what is ALIF? Is it a chip maker or what is it?
yeah, they're a chip maker.
Okay, so that's a different camera then.
Yeah, so they have what's it called? And this is all. Keep in mind, I am very new to like neural accelerators and this low level, teeny tiny little chips. This is new to me. But the Ellipse guys have several chips that have been taped out now. If you look at their Ensemble series, it's like a Cortex M55, but it also has an Ethos, which is ST's like or excuse me, not ST. Why do I keep saying that? It's ARM's like NPU architecture.
Oh, okay.
They also have an office here in Oulu.
Oh. Oh, you're back. What is going on with your switch or something? Switch?
Yeah, so I have a KVM switch which switches between two computers, my entire setup. So I was having some problems with that.
While you were gone, we had a long discussion of the Lego universe, and now we are talking about Yasha's new stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, the Ethos stuff, that's ARM's like little teeny tiny cheap NPU. And evidently it actually, it like accelerates these little like image or like small network stuff like it's like hundreds of times. It's not like 10 times, it's like a significant amount. So it's like really worth it for kind of the IoT battery powered stuff because it's like much more efficient on the power to do the same thing.
So if you have like a slightly smart sensor that detects the semantics of events and is not very chatty in like talking back to more powerful computers, you save on, I guess, uh, communication power, right? Because that seems to be a big drain. Like if you're on Wi-Fi or like a local, I don't know, some sort of like near field kind of communications thing, it's still going to be the most expensive use of the power to report on what the sensor is seeing to some computer powerful enough.
Yeah. So like a good example is let's say you want a sensor to like look at cracks in concrete, and it needs to run off a battery for like 10 or 20 years, and it's like one, you got to run off the battery. So if you need to check the crack in the concrete every day, if it takes 100 times more power to actually determine is the crack okay, yes or no, then it's like an application that's enabled or not enabled, or you'd have to have like a solar panel on it versus it just runs off of a AA battery for 10 years, no questions asked, because the chip uses such little power to actually measure the crack in the concrete, and then it would then like fire up its modem and everything. And yeah, it would be like this would be, maybe that's not the best example because maybe you could just send like a photo of the concrete once a day. But if you couldn't send the photo
No,
of the
I see
concrete,
what you're saying. Like if you have like a very lightweight inference model that's been trained specifically on this is the detection condition of the crack is doing something bad that needs to be reported, it can look
yes,
every day, but it only needs to send a message that something is wrong when it detects the bad crack or something like that, right?
yeah, this is
That's
what
the,
I mean by the timeliness and compression, because you could also send an analog value of the crack width every day versus like a whole image for similar amounts of power. Because like when you have an NPU, it's like firing up the radio may actually be as much power as just running the neural network. Versus if without the NPU, it's like a lot of power to run the
so I
neural
think
network.
the difference is if you're sending back the width of the crack, you're assuming that there's like somebody has built like a fairly complex deterministic model in which the crack becomes a key indicator where it's, if the crack is above 3 millimeters, that's like 95% probability that something bad is happening, right? Somebody has modeled that all out. Whereas if you have like a machine learning approach and you're doing something like classifying pictures of cracks based on like, I don't know, 100 parameters that are fuzzily somehow capturing something about the crack, I think you can like build more robust and powerful sort of like event detection things. You don't have to rely on like both laborious and fragile ways of like interpreting data. You can have robust and not very labor demanding ways of like dealing with information, right?
Yeah. The other kind of like more pithy thing. This is actually a cool. I thought it was a very cool demo. But like I would call it like I think I would call it like the I need an adult demo, where you can run a really dumb model on the local edge device just to see if there's something in the image. So it's like it's staring at a parking lot. It's like if it sees something in the parking lot, the model can be like, something's happening, I don't know, but then it can then send an image to OpenAI, and then that VLM can actually say something about it. So it would just like escalate the layers of brain until it got like a sufficiently acceptable answer, which is like, oh, it's just a dog that walked in the parking lot, versus like it's something bad.
Yeah, I
But
was just about to
the
make
only
the
purpose
connection.
of the model was to be like, I need a doll. Like I'm sending you a pull image to run your big brain on it because my brain's too tiny. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all those like anecdotes about like dogs alerting cops and firemen of like emergencies. That's exactly it, right? Like, and even human not
Yeah, yeah.
like that, right? So you've got an emergency, somebody has a heart attack, their pet dog runs and gets the nearest other human, right? So, and humans do the same thing. Like calling 911 is basically, I'm too dumb to decide what to do, so I'm calling this generic emergency number,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
you give like a very rich but not smart description of what's going on, right? You call 911 not just for like classifiable events like fire and heart attack or health or something. Any random shit happens that you don't even have words to describe, you can probably call 911. All you need to recognize is that something dangerous is happening. Like, like I imagine the first time somebody saw an electric vehicle burst into flames with like a battery fire, somebody would have called 911, right? And it would probably have been one of the first times a member of the public saw a battery fire and they could tell it was like something weird. This does not look like a normal auto accident, but you would still just call 911. The action is clear, even if you don't know what to do with it. But okay, yeah, so this is kind of interesting. I think if you assume a universe of like smart, cheap sensors that can do like low level eventful summaries with some semantics and therefore like replace like very chatty and fragile sort of like event feedback loops with like less chatty and like somewhat more abstract feedback. I think you've basically disrupted how you do robot architecture altogether, right? Like
Yeah, because it does it's in in the way that like the storage is the compute. I feel like now that it's like it's literally the same price to just like put an NPU that it can do maybe interesting things on the die of the chips everywhere. Like I think it starts to be more and more weird and bizarre what the communication will look like between them, because it's like, imagine if every single ECU in a car, which they usually have like a couple hundred typically now, if each one of them had its own little model running for its own little thing, it starts to get really bizarre of like how that architecture looks.
so this
And how
I
you
think becomes Society of Mind. Like if you ever read Marvin Minsky's like original AI classic Society of Mind, like he was the one proposing that AI should be built as lots of little agents that do one thing well. And I think yeah, we are converging to that kind of thing. Oh, but I just saw the time. We're like 13 minutes
oh
past, so
yeah,
we're wrapping up. But yeah, this is I
yeah,
think
the anthill intelligence.
yeah, we should explore some of these cheap edge AI components.
It seems also that the recent advances, perhaps you've seen the liquid AI announcements like a couple of days ago, but they managed to do better than Transformers with um, much smaller models. But it's they are all in the category of MOE. MOE is a mixture of experts. Okay, and many people associate that to Minsky's earlier work. Okay, interesting to see where we're going
Yeah.
because it's. They are significantly smaller, still very big, okay, but the performance is even better. So compared to open source, to Llama 3 and Mistral and so on. So there is I haven't seen any comparison to OpenAI. Huh? But
all of them use mixture of experts now. I think though it's become part of state of the art. So these guys must be doing something more than that. But yeah, we should wrap up now. So let's see.
Anyway, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Nice to see you again, Yasha.
Oh yeah, yes. Sorry, I've been on, but yeah, good to see you all. Still going. It's awesome.
Yeah, this will keep going. Our standards are very low, so it's easy to keep. But we did do some stuff that I think you'll be interested to see. Like Anuraj built a way to control robots with Farcaster frames. So that was an interesting experiment. We're going to take it to DevCon in Bangkok and demonstrate it.
So basically, now the payment interface is flipped. So Farcaster, somebody created a Paycaster API. So like now, if I integrate it, then you could pay to control the robot via Farcaster.
Yeah. So yeah, we did. So Anuraj did his first, and then we set up the tumbler robot. You know, we've been working on the tumbler robot, right? So we set aside the design direction you suggested, two-wheel thing, but we're using like the Elegoo tumbler, which is similar, like a two-wheeler, and Anuraj replaced the Nano.
The Atmega, yeah, the Nano, which has the Atmega. I replaced it. I made a custom plugin board that sits between the PCB of the tumbler, and then so we can now plug in the ESP32 Nano on it.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's easy to see, but yeah, the board has been
Very cool.
Yeah, so we now have an ESP32 on this. So this connects to Wi-Fi, and it runs a web server that can be controlled via the frames mechanism on Farcaster.
Yeah, the plan is to get rid of that plugin board, and because that PCB runs on 5 volts and that plugin converts it into so the ESP32 is 3.3, so it's just a voltage translated plugin board. But the idea is to remove the entire PCB and the plugin board and run everything on 3.3. That way we are removing, but yeah, that will take time.
Yeah.
But then when you are ready, we can integrate with the actual YaRG architecture, so we can take this stuff.
Very slow. I know when
you
suggested you thought we'd be able to get something going in the field in the Mojave Desert in 3 months. I don't think this group works at that pace, but maybe 3 years is more realistic. We'll get there, and we'll control it from Farcaster or something. All right, yeah. So
yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, decentralized controller. Cool.
All right. See you guys next week.
Thank you. Cheers.
Later.
Bye.